ask our friend, respected David Cameron, to consider the history of Islam. And not everything which is medieval is bad. Sometimes people, to refer to backward things, they say, oh, these people are medieval. Not everything in the Middle Ages was bad. There were things we can learn from those people and bring them back together again. So in this country, instead of causing division and making the Muslims look like the problem, we should bring people together so that they can live together and coexist in peace and have a convivencia. Britain, by far, is the most tolerant country on the face of the earth, and I acknowledge that as a Muslim. This country is the most tolerant country on the face of the earth, and we would love to keep it that way, instead of giving it into the hands of right-wing bigots like EDL. So I hope you enjoyed the presentation today and you learned from it. Thank you very much for waiting for me. I am very sorry. I do apologize for the delay. It was out of my hands. Thank you very much for listening. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.
Thank you very much, Brother Adnan, for that very enlightening talk. Now we'll open up the floor to questions and answers. I just make a quick request, obviously, because we started a little bit late. If we can make the questions, kind of relevant to the topic and many of the issues that we brought up before were. So please, short, sharp kind of questions, and the floor is yours. So, any hands? Yes, sir.
You mentioned Jews and Christians and atheists. What about people whose religion are idol worshippers, for example?
Good question.
How would they treat it?
How would they be treated?
Yeah.
Okay. The idol worshippers were treated historically very, very kindly by the Muslims. When Muslims took India in 92 Hijri, approximately 711 CE, exactly the same time when they landed in Spain. It was the year 92 of Islam, and they landed in Spain. In the same year, they landed in India, and they just didn't invade this country. There was a reason for every single country to have been invaded by the Muslims. Now, some people may reject it. Some academics say, oh, no, these are just excuses we find in the early Islamic chronicles. No, that's not true. Because if you look at the condition of the people who were living in those countries, they, having heard about the treatment of the Muslims, they invited the Muslims to come in and liberate them. Another Jewish scholar named, what's his name? SubhanAllah. Zion Zohar, he's an American Jewish historian. He wrote on the page 9 of his book, History of Sephardic and Mitzrahi Jewry, he states that when Muslims landed in Spain, the Jews opened the doors for them as liberators from the Christian persecution. Now, what was happening in Christian Spain prior to the advent of Islam? If you go and study the text of some of the legal codes or some of the law books from the 7th century Spain, prior to the arrival of the Muslims, Fourth Council of Toledo, and if you study the documentation, the records of that council, it was decided in that council by the Catholic bishops that all the Jewish children are to be taken away from the Jews by force, and they are to be raised as pious Christians by the Christians. So the Jews were actually being forced into Christianity before the Muslims arrived. That's why they opened the doors for the Muslims. Likewise, in this case in India, there was a ship coming, a trade ship, making its way to the Muslim land, and it was captured by some of the Indian pirates. And the Muslim ruler was approached by some of the people with regards to this question, and he wrote to the king to ask him to go and liberate these people, and the king didn't do nothing, so he sent an army in order to liberate these people. And Muhammad bin Qasim landed in Sindh, the province of Sindh, which is in Pakistan today, and he went as far as Multan in southern Punjab. And these people were Hindus. So did he massacre all of them? No. They were allowed to live, and in fact, when he was called back by Sulaiman bin Abdul Malik, these people cried for him. Some of the Hindus, there is a source called Chachnama, which is an Indian source written by some Hindus, that when Muhammad bin Qasim was called back by his authorities, these people cried for him. They actually wanted him back. So this is an example, historical example, where Hindus, pagans, idol worshippers were allowed to live as they and the existence of so many temples. Muslims governed India for more than 8 centuries. In the reign of Aurangzeb Alamgir, the Mughal emperor, he governed 95% of India. And we still find the temples, the Hindus are still in existence. In fact, they're the majority in India to this day. So they could have easily been massacred by the Muslims. Muslims had the authority, they had the power, they had the armies led by them. But they didn't do it for some strange reason.
Any other hands? Yes, please.
You said, I think you touched on the subject as well earlier about how we actually group people.
Sister, did you go on the convoy?
Yes, I did.
Oh, mashallah.
That's, by the way, that's good Palestine, everyone. So yeah.
By the way, this sister she was with us on a convoy to Palestine, an aid convoy. That's why I asked you that question.
You said something about that people, well, British-born Muslims, you said that earlier actually. We're not the ones who are actually causing the problem. We're not the ones who are actually destroying the image of Islam. Do you think that there's some Muslims obviously in this country trying to get Sharia law into practice in this country? Do you not think that that's kind of destroying the image as well and causing a bit of trouble and causing us actually, and to go and touch it back to the whole idea of everyone thinking that we're medieval and that Islam is actually medieval? Do you think that's acceptable?
No. I know the people you're talking about, and they are not even the minority of the Muslims. You see, to be a minority within the Muslims, you have to have some numbers. These people are few hundred individuals, 100 or 200 individuals, and they come on the streets, and media always focuses on them. There are 3 million Muslims in this country, almost 3 million Muslims in this country, and media always manages to find these people to come and talk for the Muslims. Why? My question is, why cannot the BBC and Sky News and these news channels find someone who is teaching in, we have Muslim professors, Muslim lecturers in this country. Why don't you come to them and ask them about Islam? Why do you go to someone who has never been to a university in his life, he doesn't want to go to the university, and his knowledge of Islam is coming from someone in Lebanon or somewhere in internet, one of the Sheikh Google. Okay? So these people, they are not to be taken seriously. Unfortunately, the government and the media propaganda machines are very much willing to pick up these people and present them as the leaders of the Muslims. They have nothing to do with us. And as far as the issue of Sharia is concerned, we are a minority in this country. Sharia law wouldn't work in this country. You know why? Because majority of this country are Muslims, and even under Islam, they were not asked to abide by the Sharia law. Did you know that Christians in Islamic Spain and in Ottoman Empire had their pig farms? They had their wine factories. They were producing wine for themselves. As long as they consume it and they keep it to themselves, they're allowed to keep it as much as they like. So if you go to the Christian quarter, in the city of Constantinople, Istanbul, there was a neighborhood called Galata. And we had the Christians and the Jews living in these neighborhoods. And the Christians had all they wanted, the ham and the pork and the wine. So no one was stopping them. So even under an Islamic state, under the Islamic law, the Christians and the Jews are not forced to abide by the Islamic law. How can we ask in this country for the majority of the non-Muslims to abide by the Sharia law? This is obnoxious. This doesn't work. These people don't know what Islam is. Okay? So again, I think some people know this in the media and they deliberately disregard these realities from the Islamic history, and they want to make us look like that we are the people who want to force Sharia down the throat of the British masses. No, we don't want that to happen. It's not going to work. How can you apply the Sharia law when we have wine being produced and sold? Because in Sharia law, if you are caught drinking wine, you are given lashes publicly. For a Muslim, not a Christian. For a Muslim, okay? By the way. So if there is wine being sold and you're not preventing it from being sold, how can you lash someone for drinking it? So Sharia law comes comprehensively. You have to establish, you have to implement the moral side of it, the preventing side of it, and then you apply the criminal penalties, which are harsh. Sharia criminal penalties are very harsh. Absolutely, I accept that. but they're suitably harsh. Because if you look at the moral system, the preventing system of Sharia law, because Sharia doesn't allow you to print porn magazines or have pornography on your screen, okay, so that you are aroused and go and rape someone. There are academic studies which establish that there is a direct link between pornography and rape in the West. In Scotland, they were putting up adverts on TV that telling the woman, oh, when you go out on weekends, do not dress revealingly because you are very likely to be approached. So these wisdoms are already to be found in the Sharia law. So Islam strikes a balance. So first we give them that prevention. We prevent for all these evils from taking place, which we do consider to be evil. And then if the people commit crimes, even in the absence of these means, then they are punished harshly, which is reasonable, right? So if you don't find a knife and you find...
Punishment is not supposed to be easy, it's supposed to be harsh anyway. So.
No, even when these penalties are implemented, in the entire history of Islam, Saudi Arabia has this law. I've been to Saudi Arabia many times, okay? Once I was there on the 27th night of Ramadan, the most busy period of that city, the city of Mecca. I never came across a man without a hand. I did not see a man without a hand. What is happening? They have this law in implementation. It works. It works. It doesn't get to that stage. It doesn't even get to that stage. So it is more of a deterrent than punishment. Okay? Most of the Sharia penalties are there to deter people from committing crime rather than to punish them and get rid of their limbs. Sorry. So anyone else?
I'll tell you what you said so far. I think it's spot on. What I'm interested in is what you're saying about the media and you have to voice heard. I think the media do focus on extreme groups, and that's true from an English point of view. You mentioned the BNP. They are small minorities of people who I personally would hate to be associated with. Sure. I know a lot of people also would feel that way. Same thing, I'm sure you and people talking about. There is a problem, definitely a problem there, because the way that's perceived inside the media, and we get media all the time at us, it's subliminal and it goes in. So I'm just wondering, can you see a way where the more moderate people can get their voice heard better? I'm thinking in particular about the whole Egypt thing and Facebook and Twitter and stuff. We have this technology now, where voices can be heard.
Yes.
Is there a way forward now? I don't know, I'm just asking a question.
That's a good point, but the problem is, I don't like this these naming of the people, moderate and extremist. There is no such a divide in Islam. Islam is only one, and it's very straightforward. It's very, very clear. Okay. For example, when Prime Minister David Cameron talked about the political Islam, okay, and he painted all the Muslims with the same brush. Okay, although he meant that these people who believe in the political Islam are extremists, non-violent extremists, what he didn't realize was that he was talking about all Muslims. 1.5 billion Muslims on the face of the earth, because all of us, without any apology, believe in the political dimensions of Islam. Prophet Muhammad himself was an active politician. He took active part in the politics of the 7th century Arabia. He established alliances. He signed treaties, and he established a state in Medina. And even the academics are talking about it. If you go and study the book of Michael Donner, Fred Donner, he wrote a book on the early Islamic conquests. Fred Donner, if you study his work, all he's talking about the state of Medina, the treaties, the unity of the Arabs. So the Prophet was a politician. And what did he tell the Muslims? What did he tell the Muslims? Alaykum bi sunnati wa sunnati al-khulafa ar-rashidin al-mahdi min ba'di. Upon you is my sunnah and the sunnah of my rightly guided caliphs. How many of Muslims know this hadith, by the way? Put your hands up. So I would say possibly 40% of you. Possibly. Okay? Now this hadith is well established within the Islamic literature, this report of the Prophet, and it has to be obeyed. If that's the case, then we are to follow the way of the Prophet. We are to imitate the Prophet. And if that's the case, then we are to become politicians. We are to take active part in politics. And Islam has a political dimension to it. Now if that's the case, then our Prime Minister, David Cameron, with due respect,